Salvador Dali threw a great party. We all drank Bacardi, it got kinda gnarly. We're light as a feather, we're tougher than leather. Together we're weirder together.
Greetings from Melbourne.
Greetings from the home front.
Yeah, I am at the QT Hotel being a QT.
Nice.
Yeah.
How's Melbourne? How's the weather?
It's good. I mean, it's drizzly. It's exactly what you'd want out of a good Melbourne visit. It's overcast, it's a little rainy, but it's not too cold. I had a lovely dinner with my old friend Vinny from Midnight Juggernauts last night. Do you remember Vinny? Remember he invited us to Solange's house and we went over and stuff?
Yes. I couldn't believe it. I met Solange.
Yeah, he was working with her on
Beyonce's
her record.
amazing sister. And that was...
Oh, that's Solange. I like that you qualified it. Like, there are so many Solanges in our life. We don't want to be confusing.
I guess, like, they don't seem similar to me.
Really? Yeah, what do you get? What do you get
Well,
vibe-wise?
Solange is, like, more, like, artsy.
Yeah,
and
relatable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Beyonce is really nice, actually.
But Solange is younger, right?
Maybe.
Because I feel like sometimes with siblings, if you have a really dominating personality as an older sibling, you try and figure out where you can fit in and what you can offer.
Oh, yeah.
And she might have realized she had to become the arty one to sort of,
yeah,
to have a voice in that family.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, but we went to a restaurant called Cookie.
Oh,
that was
cool
it
name.
was just this, it was this great Melbourne thing. It's like, I don't know, it's just amazing. It was like I could barely find it. It was like this little hidden doorway, and they went in, and the restaurant was upstairs, and it was huge and packed.
Oh,
so it was one of those things in a city that's like so specific.
God, I love it.
And
you know
the food
me,
was delicious.
I love a restaurant.
And Vinny was yeah, we were reminiscing about, I mean, we've known each other a long time because he was Emil's assistant on the documentary Emil made about me.
That is
we've known each other.
Cool documentary.
I don't know if it's a cool documentary. But
well, I mean, the footage of you in the 90s. Cool footage, there's an amazing footage of, why am I blanking on her name? She's
Christina Ricci.
Christina Ricci. Like one of those small, what do they call them? Kickbacks now.
It was a bit of a kickback, yeah.
Like, I'll set the scene. You're in whose apartment?
We were in Winona's apartment at Gramercy Park.
And it was you, and was it not Jake Fogelnest?
I think Jake was there. Dustin Yellen was there.
And she was having...
Matt Frauman was there. That was the night they got together.
Oh, and who was... It was an antagonistic conversation.
It was just young, drunk people in their 20s.
But she was having
trying to outsmart each other.
And she was sort of being antagonistic in this guy. And it was just fascinating to see, you know, just like a scene with all these kind of 90s celebrities in New York just hanging and talking. And she was so smart.
Yeah, isn't it funny how I think part of being in your 20s for a lot of people, not everyone, is just like needing to prove how smart you are to everybody around you.
Yeah.
It just seems like something that does generally fade with age.
I was such a, you know, when I was vegan, I was just like screaming at everybody. And I'm impressed with my daughter, Kate, who has some pretty, you know, fringe views.
Kate will try and turn you commie if you get in a conversation with her.
But
she's
in a very
pushing you towards
way.
the left. Yeah,
she really has a kind of chill, like she doesn't seem to get rattled. I'd be red-faced and so angry. And just even now, a couple years ago, I was sort of defending trans something with someone and I was like bright red.
Yeah. I know, it's just so fun. It's like that thing when you're younger where it feels like your entire identity is at stake if you can't convince the other person that you're arguing with that you're right.
Yes.
It just feels so threatening.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. There's so much of that type of rhetoric going on between what's happening in Israel and Palestine, in Australia with the referendum, and I've had a few interesting conversations. I had a text with Safi this morning who was talking about her, you know, she grew up Muslim and around sort of very extreme viewpoints that she does not her directly, not her parents, but extended family
Yeah.
that she had never really bought into, and then but also she has very highly Zionist friends, and it's like it just feels like the world wants to push us towards having extreme viewpoints all the time. Pick a sports team type vibe.
Yeah. I mean, but at the same time, when things get this extreme, I feel like I can see things clearly on both sides. I can see kind of, I don't know, I shouldn't say like I can see things clearly on both sides, but for example, I can just I feel like have a clarity when things get pushed, even understanding the side that are in the wrong in a way. You know, like I never understood.
Which is everyone off usually.
Yeah, and I never understood like why was Poland so not into Jews, and then when it's explained to you, you're like, oh, okay, because at
I like the
first,
historical context for the
yeah, if you get the
prejudice
historical
or whatever,
context, it's not that it's right, but you're like, oh, that's why these people think this way because of this, and it's not necessarily right, and in fact, not in a lot of cases, but what the world needs now is love,
sweet love. I know, I just keep coming back to, like, I really do believe in abstraction and poetry and ideas, and
I know,
I keep coming
listen.
back to, like, what role am I meant to play in when you're in such a divisive world? It's funny, I did an interview this morning because I'm doing this TikTok event next week, and I'm getting sort of wheeled out as the old man who's yelling at the sky, who can be included in the next generation.
How do you know that? Why are you like making yourself this old guy with
No,
the
I just mean
fist?
in general. It's like I'm definitely like
I thought you were
partly. I
Mr.
think
Fun.
the reason, yeah, I am Mr. Fun,
Right.
but I'm doing the interview as a representative of someone who's an older artist who's embraced young technology. Or whatever.
Yes.
You know, I'm playing it up. Of course, I'm not Grandpa Simpson, but I was talking to her about technology and about how all the moral conversations we have around it. What are you up to with your
I'm
hair
trying to
there?
do my hair.
But what if I use this as the clip on social media? It's going to be full
It'll
of you
be
just
like
doing
one
your
of
hair.
those TikToks where people are like, get ready with me. This is
Oh,
how
so
I
we're
get
doing-
ready.
I love that. Get ready with me.
Get ready with me with
mid-podcast
headphones.
content.
How to do your hair
Fantastic.
with headphones.
Are you happy with your hair right now?
I'm embracing the Patti Smith, like
The model, Patti
the
Smith model?
messiness. Okay, go on. So
Yeah, it
you're
looks good because you got like a bohemian thing going on, but you always got your Ione Sky glamour.
you're
look
going
good.
to the TikTok
Okay,
event where
so-
you're DJing.
Oh yeah, no, I'm performing, but that's not the point. The point I was making was I'm doing this interview today, and we were talking about it and how obviously technology and all of this stuff, there's like moral and ethical questions, right? And like
Yeah.
legislative questions of what should tech companies be allowed to do and all that. But then as an artist, as an entertainer, our job is really just to like look at the tools in front of us and go, how can I use them to make things? And I
Yeah.
think that's sort of like interesting, like with AI at the moment too, how there are all these moral questions, but our job is to keep making stuff and to try and make things with integrity. And anyway, it's like, it's
Right
just
on.
connected. I guess like
Right
tech,
on.
yeah.
I love
Thank
it.
you for that
No,
pages
and
of work.
selfishly, I need art. Like, like I guess there's always that kind of moral dilemma, or not moral, that sort of idea of like, am I doing enough being an artist, or what is art? And when people say, oh, art is the only thing that matters, and I always thought, what does that mean? Like, aren't doctors important? Or I don't know. I never understood. And I always make something a competition. But more and more when things are hard, thank God for, leaves swaying in the breeze, like nature. Thank God for like, music, and even like movies. And I really personally, selfishly, I rely on art so heavily, the way I rely on connection and nature when I'm having an extremely hard time and when things are very scary. I mean, music. I mean, what it's so selfishly, I really, and even, it's a particularly hard time right now. And our kid was doing a puzzle, and I started, not a puzzle, Legos. But I was thinking about puzzles, and I was like,
yeah.
a puzzle of sorts. I was thinking, could you say, what's the good of a puzzle But some things actually are great to just relax, take a second and relax. And anyway, art, it does more than relax, but it's just, I don't know. I do think it's very important
Yeah, and I also think it's like interesting as
for me.
you
It's
go
important
on
for
in
me.
life. Yeah, it's important for, yeah, and I think it's interesting as we go on in life to kind of realize the path we've chosen, and that there are people who are logistical thinkers on a global scale whose job it is to offer solutions about
Yes.
Israeli-Palestinian relations and how to regulate tech companies and all that. And for better or worse, as an artist, that's not the career we went into. And people actually often don't want to hear these types of ideas we have because we're not that educated about all the details of it, but we can contribute at like a creative and energetic level to
Sure.
solutions,
Yeah. Yeah. One is
So
not obviously better than the other. I do
yeah,
always
but it's
want to
like, I guess
have a
that's why
comment.
it's funny. I'm being a bit like those people who are like, stay in your lane, just shut up and sing.
Right.
But I mean, I think we obviously can voice our opinions, but I think we have a lot to offer through, affecting the atmosphere of the planet.
Well,
I think that's
yeah.
more like what artists can do. Like we can generally affect the atmosphere and
Right.
hope
Right.
that
Right.
that trickle down atmosphere into
Yeah. I
legislation.
mean, it's one of the
Anyway,
pieces, because of course I believe in proper action and people actually thinking and, not just sitting. Meditation's fine, all of that. But I do believe in, I know they say you have to change yourself and that will change the world. But I'm like, actually get on the ground and start figuring out how to help people. But yes,
did you
art.
watch any of the David Beckham thing on
No.
Netflix?
Should I?
It's worth watching. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I could not care less about a sports game
Yeah.
generally. Like I like playing it, but I don't want to watch it.
Oh,
But yeah, what were you gonna say?
no, it's making me think, I don't know if this is where you're going. Like, I never really watched OJ play. And when I
Oh,
watched the people, not the People versus OJ, but that Genius documentary. Did you ever see it? The
I
OJ
never watched
documentary?
it. No,
It's
I
so
still have OJ fatigue culturally.
I
Like I
had it.
don't want to know more about
No, but I
OJ. Yeah.
had it it's like when you can't listen to Bob Marley because you listen to Bob Marley and then like 4 years go by and you're like, I'm ready to go deep again. Anyway, that is also a historical lesson, a history lesson on LA and the Black community. And it's just a fascinating, even if you don't care about OJ, it's layers of fascination about LA and about a lot of
Yeah, I
things,
should watch it. I should watch it.
just different things. So, but in it, you see him running. They called him what, the juice? No, I don't know.
Yeah, I think orange juice. OJ,
And well, because of OJ, but what did they call him? He was so, when you
the
see
Juice Man.
these
Yeah.
people do their thing, like I've never seen Beckham do his
Yeah.
thing.
Well,
So when
yeah. What was
when I
interesting about
watched
it?
him running along that football field, I was like, oh yeah, that's why. It's like, listening to some famous opera singer, like you've heard of them and then you finally see and you're like, oh, that's why they're the most famous. So I bet with
Yeah,
Beckham, I bet he bends it and you go,
he does bend it. It's
bend
true.
it
He
like
does bend it.
Beckham, and that's
I
what it looks like. I want to see what that looks like.
Yeah, but to me, what was interesting about the doco was that yes, he had some extraordinary moments of winning. He lost a lot. Like he
Oh,
had a really tumultuous career that was really volatile. It wasn't like a Michael Jordan career where you're the undisputed king who never puts a step wrong until,
yeah.
until you retire or whatever. It was striking to me what a difficult career he had, and in
Oh,
terms
I
of all
didn't
the
know that.
trading from team to team. And then also, I don't want to give a spoiler if you're going to
Don't.
watch it, but
Yeah, I will.
at the end, the type of victory that he gets, because it's more of a team victory, it reminded me of a certain archetypal thing that we have as performers, where there's part of us that just wants everything for ourselves. And part of what we have to learn is that, like, you
Gotta
never
pass.
quite get yeah, you got to pass. No, but you never quite get emotionally. Like it's almost like the fantasy we each have as a performer is just our parents being like, "You're the perfect little boy or girl," and we're trying to chase this emotional moment. But
That's
what
your
actually
childhood dynamic. I didn't have that.
No, I'm saying what we want often.
I'm not saying
But
my mom. I'll go into my my dynamic after this. Go on.
we want to fill a hole very often. But what the reality of success looks like is always really different. I mean, we
Yeah,
talk about
that's
that a lot.
so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't have the type of doting, I didn't have that doting type. My mom was like kind of perfect almost. So, but I didn't. It's funny I
But
didn't
no
have
dote.
that.
She was a no dote.
Yeah, she wasn't that kind of like you're the most amazing. But I just knew she felt that way anyway.
But how did she miss it? Because you are.
She just knew it, and I knew she knew it, and I don't know.
And that was enough.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into some questions I have
love it.
for us? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts about all of
Okay.
these. I have
Do you
3
know them?
questions from our
Have you
beautiful
heard of them?
babies. Heard of what?
Have you heard them first already?
No, they're not hearing. They're written ones. I'm going to read them to you.
Okay.
Because they're ones that came in through Instagram. Okay, this one came in from a beautiful baby named Josh Taylor.
I
Our
love
good
Josh
baby.
Taylor.
I believe your most basic human right is the right to die if you choose. Most don't see it that way and are terrified of the idea. Why? Please discuss.
Is this
Start out with a real softball.
Is this euthanasia or like when you're old and sick?
Yeah, euthanasia, but self-prescribed, not like putting it down an animal, like
Well, no,
the
I
right
mean
to
like
choose. He's talking about.
a human who's sick and dying or old and dying, or
Well, what's interesting about the question is he's not necessarily involving illness.
right.
He's actually just talking about the right to die, which may or may not at a legal level involve having to prove you're ill or terminal, but he's just asking about what do you
I
think
did a
about
short
the right
film
to
all
die?
about this. Remember I told you about that? With
Yeah.
my man Flint, with James. How come you never can remember anything when you're like pressuring yourself to remember? Coburn.
Anyway,
James
it's not,
Coburn.
no,
Anyway,
okay.
I think at the end, I don't know. Like I guess at the end of, I've known 2 people to have this done, and they both were happy about it. They wanted. I mean, I don't know. After, who knows if
If they had regrets.
if they had regrets. One was old and one was dying of AIDS, and they both wanted that to happen, and so it happened. But if someone does that and they still have kids, or they're, it's like different scenarios would feel differently. Like I wouldn't want someone to leave people in the, like both the situations I knew, one was like on their deathbed and one was just dying of AIDS, so there was no recovery. What do you think?
I think it's interesting because when you talk about rights, I think there's, just to use a common term, people say God-given rights, which are sort of like there's the rights of nature and then there's legal rights.
Yeah.
And I think we do have the cosmic right to die.
Yeah.
Like we can choose that. As far as should it be, I get this is all comes back to the same thing. I don't understand how effectively to create a legal system or live within a legal system that reflects our more cosmic rights. I like that Paul Westerberg lyric. He says, breaking man-made laws because the only laws I follow are divine. Which is, it's obviously that's anarchy to some degree, but I think for the most part, I think the larger philosophical question isn't about the legal right. It's about what does it look like to choose that for the people around us, like you said, for our loved ones, is there a path?
Well, these both wanted it. They wanted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we answered that very thoroughly. I'm sure Josh is going to be really...
To go back to Bob Marley and do a bad Jamaican accent, he
Oh,
said,
please, little cultural appropriation. We haven't had any this episode yet.
He said, laws cause crime and violence.
That's right. I like that extra syllable you got out of crime.
Crimes and violence.
Crimes. So we got this message came in from Khalid. It says, hey guys, you hit the nail on the head in the last podcast. Love I don't know which podcast he's referring to, but love the Rachel papers and how it makes me feel nostalgic for the London of the late 80s, early 90s. I love gritty 70s New York films. And Rachel Papers, along with Mona Lisa and Long Good
Long Goodbye?
Friday?
Oh, Long Good
Yeah, maybe
Friday.
a mistake.
Yes, Long Good
What's that called?
Friday.
Long Friday?
The Long Good Friday? Yeah, what
Long
is
Good
that?
Friday.
I know
I
that
like
movie.
that with London for me. Totally transportative. Ione, did you get the opportunity to do more films in the UK? Could see you in a period piece, a Helena Bonham Carter type of role, like Wings of the Dove.
Yeah.
Love the podcast, Carly.
Listen, I did a TV show, but it was medieval, and it was sort of a silly TV show for the ABC, not the ABC America, and we shot it at Shepperton Studios and in the country in a castle, and it was a medieval show called Covington Cross, and so I worked for like 6 months on a TV show before it got canceled, and that was in England, and that was really, really fun to live in England. But that I would love, I mean, like all of those those Merchant and Ivory movies,
Oh,
I
yeah.
love. I would
You
have,
do.
like, as much as when I was young, I just wanted to be in a Woody Allen movie, I equally wanted to be in a Merchant Ivory movie. And I think I would have been too nervous to work with Woody Allen, not because of the recent allegations, but just because I was so obsessed. But I would have done a Merchant Ivory movie in a heartbeat. That would have been my dream. And I still can do it. I can still do it.
Did I ever tell you, I'm sure I've told you this, that when my ex Claire Danes like auditioned for Woody Allen once, she was like 15 or 16. And, you make small talk before you start the audition.
Yeah.
He said to her, "And do you like horses?" Which she just found like the most bizarre kind of like
Condescending
way
and
for like an
weird.
old man to be talking to a young girl.
Yeah,
It's just
creepy.
weird. Especially someone who'd like grown up in New York City.
When I had my meeting, I thought he's Jewish and he's probably likes shiksas. Well, I knew he did. I mean, he's dated non-shiksas, but I was like, I mentioned I went to Catholic school because I thought it would like be exciting to him because I was trying so hard to make him like me. Like I thought he would be self-hating Jew and wouldn't like. So I was like dropped somehow that I went to Immaculate Heart. But yeah, I mean, the only problem with those Merchant Ivory movies is now like going back to my communist Kate. Well, I don't know if she's communist, but my kid, she would say
I like
that
identifying your children by the political beliefs.
Oh my God.
Like, yeah, I have a communist.
Let's say anarchist, but she would say, she's more anarchist, but she would say that, those Merchant Ivory movies, they are kind of colonial fetishy movies.
Oh, well, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
And I'm trying to wring that out of myself, but I'm still
but
in it.
it's also like Jews who have like sexual role play with Nazis and stuff like that.
God,
you know what I mean?
It's that bad, eh?
No. I'm just saying you can be a victim of something
That
and
you long
it be
for.
a fantasy landscape for you for some perverse reason.
Yeah.
Okay, last question I've got. I'm curious to know if you guys have discussed AA in any episodes or elsewhere. I thought the TM app was right on, and it seems adjacent. Love the show, and both of you.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I think just this talk about like, just sort of more secular groups or cults and, the good, the bad.
Well, I think how you do something is a lot of, what do they say? Do everything like it's the only thing you do, but that's something else.
How you do anything is how you do everything.
That's another one. I think how you do something, of course there's certain things that are just never good to do. But for example, a yoga class, like it could be just chill, or you could be like getting into a cult. But I think with the 12 steps and those kinds of things, I guess if you start just losing, I don't know, anything that makes you kind of, if you use it in a way that's like, I don't know, what am I trying to say? Like it can be amazing. Like, oh my God, I'll never not love an Al-Anon. The few Al-Anon meetings I've gone to, they're so amazing. But I guess if it just becomes, you just believe only in one thing to the point where it blocks you off. I don't know.
Well, it's like therapy. It's like there's some people who
Therapy's great.
lose themselves in whatever guidance they're getting from their therapist, and it ends up becoming like a 2-person cult, and they need to run everything by the therapist and all that. So it seems like mostly 12-step stuff is like reasonably innocuous / helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I would say more helpful than not. I mean, sure, like, I guess
But
if somebody.
for sure, people get fanatical, for sure. And it
Yeah,
becomes
I
cult-like
guess.
for
And you
a
could
lot of
say,
people.
like, wouldn't that be better than. And I mean, sure, for so many people, they're not fanatical and it's just something that's like absolutely helping them.
But
And
what do you
those
think
12
about,
steps are
like,
amazing. I mean,
yeah, that's a good solid 12. What
solid
do you
12.
think about when you have a problem, though, of whatever kind it is? In some ways, like, this goes back to our sort of conversation about politics or activism or technology. Like, in some ways, as a species, we love to pick one problem and say, if I can find a solution to this one problem, I'm on the right side, or I'm in control of life. Or do you think there's like a slight fantasy that starts occurring when we begin to identify ourselves as having this one major flaw, whether it's alcohol or drugs or gambling, or do you know what I'm saying? Like, it
Yeah. I
becomes
mean,
like
but I,
a
I would,
major way of identifying ourselves.
yeah, I'd say though, if someone has a serious problem, then going to AA is, I would say that some people, if it's ruining your health and your life, then you could say, oh yeah, that is a real problem and might be my biggest problem at the moment.
Right.
So I would say that in some cases it truly is a problem. Like what
And
if
do you think
someone.
it's true that, like, you never, like, if you identify yourself as having one of those problems, that it's a problem forever? Or do you more ascribe to the idea that there's actual healing of some kind?
I think it's both, actually.
Huh.
I think that that there can be some healing and recovery, but then there's also, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that some people would say that's always going to be there, but I mean, I guess I've noticed that things are sort of always there, but I don't know that it's necessarily going to take you down the way it does in certain points of your life. Like you may, yeah. And I don't, you know what I mean? Like you may have a point in your life where something is like really overtaking you, and there might be points where like it's not. I don't
Yeah, I guess
know.
it's like those 7 deadly sins. They're like always kind of lurking there, and one of them could get control of you, from an
Yeah, but
ego
I do think
perspective.
there's growth in time. I mean, maybe for some and not. I think it's for some and not others. Someone would say
Yeah.
no, it's always going to be there, but I do think that and and sometimes they say things just like shift into other areas, but I do think there is some wisdom with age.
Mm.
I'm learning and changing every decade.
Yeah, me too. Me
Any
too.
other questions?
No, that's the 3. That's the 3.
That was the 3.
But it's funny. I was saying, was I saying to you this week? But I was looking at my mum and how she's like reinvented herself in her life,
Yeah.
and how I'm really grateful I have an example of that, because I think that's really given me the courage to reinvent myself. It just made me think of that, like, are problems there forever, or do you get a fresh start sometimes? And it's
And
almost
some
like
yeah.
you do if you choose to. You can make a fresh start, but it takes a tremendous amount of courage also.
And sometimes life wrings you out and you change just from things. Actually, sometimes you change because you're working on yourself, and then sometimes stuff happens and you're like this time in my life I'm having a feeling that exterior situations are actually changing me. Sometimes I feel like I'm working extremely hard to change myself, and right now I'm feeling like, oh wow, this stuff is going to change me. Like what's happening in my life personally and in the world, it's like something's going on where I'm toughening up, but it's cool in a way I haven't toughened up in a exactly before. That I think
I
will
feel
be
like that
good.
too. Yeah.
I feel like it'll be good.
I was
I'm
having a
still in the
memory of
hard part, but it's going to be good.
Yeah, I was telling Vinny last night. I was having a memory as we were chatting of I stayed in a hotel next to like the Melbourne Cricket Ground or something, like probably 15 years ago, when the Kings of Leon were playing. They had that massive song "Sex on Fire." It was
How does
like
that
their
go again?
peak. My sex is on fire. Oh. It was not the record you liked. It was like one or
Okay.
two after. It was a big commercial.
I just like to make you sing because I
I
love
know,
when
yeah,
you
I like
sing.
that guy.
I know you're
But they had
singing
one or
for the
two.
money right now, but
They had
making you
one or
sing for
two
me.
like really, really big hits, and they were just huge. And I remember from my hotel room, I could hear them playing this arena show, and I heard him singing. So it wasn't about whether I was never a huge fan of their music, but he sounded great, and he
Mm.
sounded so comfortable in the song, and I was like, wow, this band right now, he's playing his hit. The audience must be throwing back at him so much intense energy right now. And he's centered, he's in tune, he's singing. He sounds like it feels good. Like he's
Yeah.
singing in a way that he said. And I just thought I felt so incapable of that at that
Aw.
time of my life because
Are
I
you
felt
gonna
really.
cry? That feels like
No,
no, I'm sorry.
are you gonna cry?
No,
I felt very
no.
overwhelmed by the audience's response often. Like I
Yeah.
found it kind of hard to stay centered.
Oh my God.
And
It's
wait, let me
fascinating.
just finish. I'm
No,
right at the end.
I'm sorry. I'm excited about
Okay, in
this.
1 minute you asked me if I'm gonna cry. The next you're about to start a new story. And then
No,
I
I'm
was
not.
and then I was the other night at that festival I played Wonder in Marambula. I was playing, something, I don't know, it was one of my kind of hit songs here, and I was feeling great singing, and I was just like, you can do it. Like this journey, it's been a long journey for me to get comfortable with the anxieties of performance in a way,
Yeah.
especially in front of really big crowds.
Yeah.
Like I've always been able to ham it up and entertain, but this
Right.
idea of finding the beauty in the moment and
Yeah.
actually feeling good in my body, that's been a really long journey. So it was just
Oh,
nice to feel
happy
that was
for
like real
you.
progress.
That's so cool.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
Oh, it was just making me think of the audience artist relationship that we were sort of talking about this before, I guess, maybe on the last podcast. I don't know. Something about the antagonistic relationship with the artist and the audience and
Yeah.
fans, your relationship to your fans. I've never had a sense of my fans. I feel like once or twice or something a year, someone will be like, "You're an icon," or "I love this movie," but I never had a feeling of a relationship with my fans ever.
Hey, but what about with social media? Don't you have more of that because of Instagram?
Yeah, but I kind of don't read. I'm like phobic. I just don't. Not that I
Right.
think it's bad. I just find it like, I don't know. But
But you notice what they respond to and what they're excited by.
sure. And I'm just thinking about when people feel angry almost at their fans, or they like want to just be like, fuck you or something. So I'm just curious about that. Like stage, that's more of a stage situation, I think.
Yeah, I do. I think that's true. I think if you're only making work, and that's why artists like Brian Wilson and stuff and the Beatles retreated from live performance.
Because do
Because
you
it's
look
so
down on your
overwhelming.
fans, or what it's just like what is it?
I just think it is
I mean, not you,
so.
but
No, I have at times. I think it is so volatile and intense and interdependent that you're performing for this group of people that have brought all of this energy and all these hopes and expectations and their own frustrations and their own lives, and you're all in a room together.
yeah.
And it is just, I see a lot of artists I think, feel trapped by the relationship,
And what
but
about
also
those
needy for the audience's approval
needy?
so intensely.
And what are the people who are like Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift, or certain people who are just so like, I love you. Like they're so joyful about their fans. Like that seems like the other side to this being like antagonistic.
Yeah, I know. That's wild. Well, that's like the gift. That's like on the did you listen to the New Yorker podcast about Taylor?
Yes.
It was really interesting, and they were just
What's
talking
it
about
called,
her
that podcast?
ability, Critics at Large.
Yeah.
It was just really interesting because they just talked about Taylor's unique ability to feel like her. Like everybody in that audience feels
Thinks
like she's singing
looking
to
at
them directly.
Yeah.
It's
And
like,
that whole thing of like, I wouldn't be anything without you. I love you.
I
And
know, it's
Diana
bananas.
Ross. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems so beautiful, but maybe it's just like part of or Beyonce, like it's just, maybe they're genuine, and it's just, that's so nice. That's actually
I
really
think the
nice.
fact that honestly, the fact that we can't tell
Yeah.
is the grand magic trick of the whole thing.
And maybe
Like-
even like the Sex Pistols or punk bands, the audience feels just as like even Jason Mantzoukas. No,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, like
Mantzoukas?
it's like Beyonce, Taylor Swift, and Jason Mantzoukas.
Like the way he's like, "What's up, jerks?"
Yeah,
on
yeah,
how to,
yeah.
and like they're like, "Yay!" Because even if you're like, "Fuck you," they're like, "You're talking to me."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of this like just I don't know.
yeah.
The stage, the wonderful, mysterious stage.
Well, we only have one more remote pod until I'm back home with you. Are
Oh,
you into
man.
that? Are you ready
Ground
to get back in
control to
person?
Major Tom. Get you back in my sphere.
Let's get back in the hood.
The
all right,
northern
well,
the northern hemisphere? Or what sphere are you in?
sending you some mad Melbourne love.
Sending you some lovely LA love. LA
and,
love.
and sending lots of love out to the beautiful babies. And we'll,
Love you, beautiful babies. Thank you so
well,
much for listening. I
thank
hope
you
you
so much.
feel
We're
like
nothing without you.
I hope you feel I'm talking to you and you.
It's
and
each of you
you
directly. You're
I
the
am.
reason for our
I really
existence.
am. I really am when I explain things. I feel like I am. It's a three-way between you and me and them.
Together we're weirder together.